Profits is proud to be sponsored by Game of Silks. Go to silks.io to get in the game. Real ownership, real races, real rewards.
There was, folks, the greatest win in Lions history in my lifetime since the 50s anyway. Vinny Blonde, we're here. We're doing it. The Lions made it, baby. Your Eagles are out, but you gotta love the Cinderella story. I know, actually, you don't have to love it, but I think it looked like on some of those maps I saw of the fandom, half the country's back in the Lions, kind of the Cinderella story this year. So welcome aboard, Vinny. We're going to cover the AFC, NFC conference title games, and we're going to touch into some prop bets. But first of all, how you doing tonight, Vinny?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Yeah, fun. Couple fun games this weekend. The Detroit game, seeing them win was exciting. Wide right for Buffalo. That was heartbreaking. That was heartbreaking. But yeah, some good games. There was only one real blowout, which was the second half of the Ravens Texans game. But
yeah, it got out of hand there.
Yeah, it got out of hand, but Texans team played great this season. Just too much Lamar in that game. He had a great game.
For the Buffalo kids at home, man, like I know I always whine about being a Lions fan and how hard it's been for 40 years of my life, this and that, but Buffalo is truly the punching bag when it comes to just, you said it, wide right, the two worst words in the history of Buffalo as a football fan. And it happened again. This one, though, man, not nearly as bad as the Scott Norwood that nobody's ever going to forget. But I will say this. I heard something on a positive vine for the Bills and for Josh Allen and everybody else. I heard something this week that made a whole lot of sense about him like being a choker and how Josh Allen can't get it done in the playoffs and blah, blah, blah. I heard a little quote, or not a quote, I guess just a thought process, and it made a whole lot of sense. And it reminded me of my early 90s Lions, actually. Josh Allen's not necessarily a choker, and Buffalo's not necessarily a choking team. They're just running into a generational monster in Patrick Mahomes, who is 6 years in the league now, 6 times to the AFC title game. They just keep losing to somebody who's that much better than them, dude. It's not choking.
It was just like
it's hard to accept. I'm sure it's hard to accept for a Buffalo fan, but he is just better than you, dude.
It was just one of those things where like the ball was bouncing Buffalo's way. Like going into that, like even before that, like you had the fumble called for a touchback. Like that's that saved Buffalo right there. You had even earlier on that drive, you had the Allen fumble, which somehow they recovered. Like that was a great play there to just recover it. They convert on the 4th down. Like it just had the feel of Buffalo was going to win that game. And then I don't know what happened. I was saying it to my buddies. They hit the 2-minute warning. They're on like the 35-yard line. And it's like, all right, like Buffalo's going to do this. And they, like, instead of like doing what got them down the field, which were like the short little throws and the runs, they were like, hey, we're just going to take shots at the end zone. And it's like, that's
stupid.
Like that is not what got you there. You didn't get to that point. Like, and like, yes, they had the big Diggs drop. Like that was a killer that he dropped that 80-yard bomb that,
for everybody trying to shit on Tyler Bass or whatever the kicker's name is, go F yourself, dude. That like, I mean, and I hate a kicker missing and blowing the gate. The fact is, a kicker is a huge portion of the points in football, but you cannot, if you're in a position to have that, and like you said, they were down at the 30 with how much, plenty of time left, with the best scrambling quarterback in the NFL, maybe outside of Lamar. and all the weapons and all the great designed offense and how hot they were coming into this game, and they just do stupid shit like they did. It's you
They
blame the
played
kicker
hero,
all you want and
right?
death threat him until he's got to run from all social media, which is shit to me. But
Right, and it was I don't like I wonder how much of those last few plays was play calling and how much of that was Allen just trying to make the hero ball play. Because we
yeah,
talked about it
you're
last
right.
week. How far was hero ball going to take him? I mean, it
It's
was
a great
it was
point because I was kind of blaming the coaching staff for those decisions myself too. But you're right. Maybe he's
right.
maybe
Maybe
he's
he
told
he
don't
tried to
do it,
force
don't go
it.
for the home run, just be smart, and then he gets in there and goes for the home
Yeah.
run anyway.
So I mean, it's unfortunate for Buffalo, but yeah, I mean
I
that
will
was
say this, dude. I will say this. I think if Josh Allen was in the NFC, he'd probably at least have made a Super Bowl or two by now.
oh
He's
yeah.
running Andy Mahomes, who 6 for 6, guys. I heard that stat earlier. I knew he was a goddamn legend already in his young career, but I did not realize that he had gone 6 for 6 to go to the championship game. That's
Oh,
ridiculous.
in
Um,
that game, in that game,
a lot of it has been just him, especially early in his
right.
career. It was just him.
Well, even
Sorry.
looking at how that game unfolded, Kansas City's defense had been great all year, and the Bills were chunking yardage.
Yeah.
It was the offense that kept him in it, and that was the best the Chiefs' offense looked all season.
Yep.
Yeah,
Kelsey,
it was just
again.
it was just like what what is this? So
Who was it on the Chiefs that was getting shit a couple weeks ago about how he made some statement about we're just bored in the regular season or something, and I remember Jim Rome and a couple of the other guys were giving him shit like, yeah, don't back in too much though, because at some points the Chiefs look like a joke. I think we all kind of knew in the back of our mind though that they were going to be a force to be reckoned with in the playoffs, and here they are.
Yeah,
and we'll get into it though, because now they're going into face what I consider and have considered for the whole season. Or at least the second half of the season is the best team in the NFL, the Ravens.
Yep.
Let's take a look for the bettors at home. We've been doing this for 12 weeks or something. Who even knows? Who cares? We're winning. Look at Vinny and my percentages, 54.8, 54.7. I've been doing it for a few weeks longer than Vinny, so that's why I have the bigger numbers. But basically, man, we're hitting around a 55% clip, and we're winning, and it's been a fun season. I can't believe it's almost over already. It seems like the season has blown by. We both went 2-1 last week, and we're going to get into both games this week, and then we're going to throw some prop bets in at the end because, I mean, with only 2 games, got to have a little fun with some prop bets. Plus, I think Vinny kind of specializes in that, and I know I have some big thoughts on props all the time because I think there is some easy money to be made in props. You can usually at least pick out 1 or 2 that really sticks out if you're a prop bet player, right?
Yeah.
All right. Kansas City, who we know, it's the Patrick Mahomes show. In the playoffs, he's a different animal. He was mediocre all year, or whatever you want to call it. The offense was mediocre. Maybe not Patrick. I don't want to insult any of the Chiefs people. And Kelsey was bad this year, not good. And the Chiefs were carried by their defense, like you just said. And Baltimore they had a couple rocky games toward the beginning and middle of the season, but the second half and most of the season in general, they have looked like the best well-rounded franchise in the league, especially in the AFC. But Baltimore hosting this thing, -3.5, 44.5 over under. Give me your initial thoughts on this one, Vinny. This is a tough one.
I'm going to take Kansas City again at the you're giving me 3.5 with Kansas City. I mean, I think this Baltimore team is definitely better than the Bills team they just faced, but I mean, Lamar and Allen play kind of similar. I feel like Kansas City for the most part, I mean, besides the goal line touchdowns that Allen had, they kind of kept Allen in check on the ground. You're going to have the same thing with Baltimore with Lamar. I feel like those two teams are kind of similar. So I think Kansas City's you giving me over a field goal difference. I'll take that.
Yeah, I'd honestly be shocked if Kansas City lost by more than a field goal. And I'm right there with you. I'm with the Chiefs getting the points, and I'm just taking the points. The Ravens could win this game, but I don't see this in any. I'd be surprised if it was Baltimore blows them out. I really would, and the reason why is because KC. I mean, look at the track record. Mahomes and Kelsey and the defense, they have just showed up in the playoffs for the whole career of Mahomes, and I honestly think the Chiefs are going to win. I do, and I think the Ravens are a better team. Lamar took big steps forward this year. He's the MVP unquestionably, and I think he's a much better player. And I think he's going to get a Super Bowl. I just don't know if it's this year or not. Wouldn't be shocked if they won this game, but I'm not betting against Mahomes, man. I mean, you see what he does in the playoffs. He's different. They're different. The Chiefs are different in the playoffs. If it was a even point spread, if it was 0, I wouldn't bet this game at all. But with the points, man, I like the Chiefs. I agree with you. You got any thoughts on the over-under?
I think this is going to go over. I'm not going to play it, though. I think this is going to be one of those. I think it's going to be similar to how we just saw the Buffalo and Kansas City game go, where these teams are going to both put up near 30 points each, I think, and it's going to come down to the end where it's 31-28 or something like that. So I do think the 44.5 is a little low. But I don't know. I don't think I'm going to touch it just because both these teams have defenses.
Yep.
Yeah, both these teams have good defenses that can definitely stonewall the other team. But I think I would be shocked if one of these teams blew out the other team. I have a feeling this is going to come right down to the end.
If anything, I would bet that it's going to be within like a 4 or less point spread. But yeah, I have this more like I'm a little lower than you. I don't hate your over bet because I think it could get that way pretty easily, especially with a couple fluke defensive touchdowns, which both of these teams are great at. But I have this more like a 24-21 type thing, which is right around Vegas.
Yeah,
but I do think the Chiefs are going to cover. I think the Chiefs. I mean, I didn't see. I meant to cut it into the graphic here. What the money line is? I think it was just slightly over 100. But dude, I don't know. I can't. It's so hard to bet against Mahomes in the playoffs, dude. I mean, he just proves it time and time again. And this is the worst Chiefs team going into the playoffs that we've seen, right, out of his 6-year career, probably, other than maybe his rookie year. And I'll fully stand behind the Ravens are the best team in the NFL. But man, you gonna tell me that you trust Lamar more than Patrick right now? Because I don't.
Right. And it's like, I mean, the Ravens and the Bills are kind of built similar. You got an all-star quarterback who's very good on the ground. You have one pretty good receiver. You know, the Bills have Diggs, who I know he fell off the second half of the year, but you know, you have Diggs as your one. Baltimore's got Flowers as their one. That Flowers is great. You have a bunch of okay receivers after that. You got both teams have very good tight ends. Like, is just going to be I feel like Baltimore is basically just a slightly better version of the Bills with the way their defense, their offense. So I feel like Kansas City has a good game plan for a team like this. Because I'm
rooting for the Ravens, to be honest.
I would like to see Lamar get his ring.
On the same side necessarily.
Yeah,
I would love to see Lamar win.
Mm-hmm. I would like to see Lamar win. I mean, I was definitely a hater when they gave him that huge contract. I was like, I don't understand why. And this season he proved it. But I mean, like against the Texans, he had 100 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns. Like,
well, that offensive coordinator, I can't think of his name, whatever it is, Munkin or whatever his name is. That guy came in and he basically put the pressure on Lamar. You're going to throw the ball, and it's going to be a different dimension because you're going to die on the field if you keep playing the way he used to play. As he's aging. I'm not saying he's getting old, but he's aging, just like Josh Allen. They can't keep going in and going head on to the linebackers their whole career.
Right. But I mean, if Lamar has another 100-yard rushing game with multiple touchdowns on the ground, like they probably win. Like that's just facts. But the chances of him doing that, I feel like, are kind of slim. I mean, Allen did have 72 yards on the ground against Kansas City last week, but besides that, the run game for the Bills really wasn't there. I think Cook had like 60, and like that was it.
Yeah,
So
and
they
they
had over.
abandoned him, and that guy he's the one who got him there, dude.
They
I don't
did that
understand.
all season. All season they did that with James Cook. He would get him down there, and then he just
And
stopped using him.
I'm gonna give a shout out to Dan Campbell and the Lions when we get to this, but it's the opposite with what the Bills did.
Mhm.
They abandoned what got them there, and the Lions didn't. And you saw it last week. I'll get into it, but
Yep. So
you can't abandon what got you there. And honestly, like Cook was a what do you call it? I kind of doubted how great he was before this season, and this season he proved to me he could be elite. He's elite talent when he's got
yeah,
the right situations. He's great, man. He's
you're
better than I
just
thought he was.
I just feel like it's kind of like the same thing with Baltimore, where like they get inside the 5-yard line, like Lamar or Allen are gonna run the ball, and like I know it's like it's a team game, but like that's gotta be mentally like being a running
Yeah,
back doing all the dirty work and not getting the credit at the end with the touchdown. That's gotta wear on them mentally, and like especially when the Bills had Latavius Murray taking the goal line snaps earlier this season. I mean, Cook had a very good year, but he probably should have had about 8 or 9 more
he
touchdowns than
was a
he did.
dominant player down the stretch because I had him in
Mhm,
fantasy. That's the only reason I really paid very close attention. He was incredible down the stretch.
mhm,
He got them there,
mhm.
and for them to like you said, play hero ball at the end was stupid. All right,
Yeah. So,
so let's wrap it up real quick. We both like the Chiefs with the points.
yep,
And we both think that Baltimore could very, very much win. So, and neither one of us like the over-runners. We're in lockstep in this game. It's going to be a
yep.
close one. KC could win. Wouldn't be surprised either way, but I do think it's going to be a close game, right?
I think the winner of this game. I mean, as much as it would be cool to see Detroit win, I think the winner of this game wins the Super Bowl. Personally,
I think if KC wins, the Lions have a shot if they get by the Niners, and we're going to get into this right now. The Detroit Football Lions, further than they've ever been since the merger of the AFC and NFC. They for the kids that's scoring at home, they won 2 NFL titles in the 1950s, or maybe it was 3 or something, but that was before there was an NFC and AFC. That was like back when there was like 8 teams or whatever it was. Doesn't count. This is the furthest they've been in the modern era. And they're coming in, and you can talk about this all you want. The Ravens and the Niners have been the 2 best teams all year. I thought the Niners were at some points. First half of the season, I definitely thought they were the best team in the NFL. And then the Ravens came on and got really sound on both sides. Lamar started looking like how Lamar has looked second half. And I thought that was the difference. Lamar is a much better quarterback than Purdy, obviously. But, man, the Niners getting 7 points at home, and deservedly so. I'm not saying it's a bad spread. I think it's about what it should be. 51 on the over-under. Lions coming in. I don't think anybody wants to play the Lions because this has all the feels of a team of destiny. And that doesn't mean that it doesn't end this week. They've already done more than most of us hoped as Lions fans. All right. We wanted a playoff win for the first time in 35 years or whatever it was. They got that. And then they went in and they got lucky that Tampa came into Detroit because Dallas and Philly both lost. So they got the easy matchup in the second round. Yeah, we know the whole story. But they've been whipping ass. They deserve to be here. And I honestly think they've got a really fair shake at San Francisco. And I'll tell you why in a minute. Let's get Vinny's thoughts first. Again, Niners -7, a full touchdown, and 51 over under. What's your initial thoughts here?
I'm going to take Detroit with the points. San Francisco they did not look fantastic last week. Detroit's best part of their offense is that run game, and San Francisco struggles when you run it right at them. I mean, Aaron Jones had over 100 yards last week. The teams that have been trying to run on the Niners have been doing it successfully. I think this is a much closer game. Purdy also did not look great. Debo's still probably a little banged up. That's going to be an interesting story coming into this week, if how healthy Debo is. So I'm going to take Detroit on the points here.
Where are you at on the over under?
That's probably about where I think it's going to be, is around that 50-point mark. I think that's too close for me to touch. If anything, I would lean a little on the over side, just because both teams can put up points. But I think this is kind of right where I thought this would over under would be.
I'm doing it, Vinny. I'm going. The Lions are going to fucking win. They're going to cover. They're going to win, dude. They're going to win. And here's why, baby. I'm going to justify it. And I know, like I said before this conversation, the Niners have been the best team in the NFC unquestionably all year. I had people yelling at me the first few weeks of the year that Philly was better when they started 9-1. F yourself. I was right. You were wrong. The Niners have been the class of the NFC without question. But guess what? They have an unproven Mr. Irrelevant, which is a pretty story. And I know everybody likes to give him all kinds of credit, with a freaking all-star team around him. And you can say the same thing about Goff, whatever you want to say. I don't trust Purdy has nothing to do with the Lions. I'm obviously a Lions slappy. Has nothing to do with him. If this was the Niners and the Cowboys, I'd say the same thing. If this was the Niners and the Eagles before they collapsed, I'd say the same thing. I don't trust Purdy in a big game here, especially when you factor in the Lions had a few weak games in the middle of the season when a little defensive tackle that nobody outside of Detroit's probably ever heard of, his name is Aleem McNeil. When he's not playing, the defense doesn't go. When he is playing, Aiden Hutchinson has 8 sacks in the last 4 games. He's killing people. He's a difference maker. He's causing turnovers. The Lions are hungrier than the Niners. I don't care what you say. I think the Niners are going to – I think the Lions' defensive line is going to get to Purdy. He's going to be scared, just like our guy Baker Mayfield, who, by the way, Baker Mayfield manned up and had a great game. So I was glad to see Tampa Bay still supporting him after that game, because they lost, but it was they stuck in there, and Baker played a great game. Hate him or love him, he was solid. We're going to wreck Purdy. That's my prediction. I'll eat my words next week if that happens. Fine. But I think we can. I really do. And I think, like you said, our running backs is the best running back tandem in the league. Montgomery, these guys are going to smash them. We got so many big playmakers. We're better than the Niners right now. We weren't better than them all year. We're better than them right now, folks. Eat up. We're going to win. We're going to win. It's like plus 300 money line.
I think it's I honestly think it's smart, just because, I mean, like, if Gibbs and Montgomery can establish like any remnants of a run game, like last week, Tampa, we talked about it. Tampa had a very good run defense. San Francisco's got a very good line, but the run stopping ability is not fantastic. They specialize on getting to the quarterback. So if they can establish the run early, and then Goff can do the play action to Laporta and St. Brown, like, they're going to stay right with them. I think this 7-point spread is a lot. I know it's Goff. I mean, that like, in my opinion, that's like the only reason is that it's Goff.
But do you have more confidence in Goff or Purdy?
Right.
I'll take Goff all day.
They're right. Like, I'm
sorry, I'm not saying
Goff's been. He's been to he's gotten a team to a Super Bowl before. So,
and he's playing by far the best ball of his life right now.
He is. He is, and he's got they got a very good supporting cast. San Francisco is very weak on the outsides. Like,
I mean, I'm serious.
I think this is
going to win this game, guys.
Yeah,
you didn't hear me say that last week. You didn't hear me say it any of these weeks.
Lions if Gibbs and Montgomery take care of the ball and don't fumble.
Yep, no stupid mistakes. That's the
right.
Type of thing.
If they don't make any stupid mistakes and they average like 3.5, 4 yards a carry, like, this is going to come down to the wire. I think this game has a more, in my opinion, has more potential to be like one team, like Detroit end up winning by a touchdown or 2, or San Francisco winning by a touchdown or 2 than the AFC game. I don't see a way that AFC game's a blowout. I think there's maybe like a 15% chance that one of these two teams just lays into the other team, and the other quarterback, I don't think either quarterback is good enough to bring them back from down 2 scores. I think if one of these teams gets a 2-score lead, that's probably going to be it.
I think, and I'm a very cautious Lions fan for 50 years of failures. But I'm telling you, dude, they're peaking right now. Their defensive line hasn't been better all year. Their secondary hasn't been better all year. Their offense has been great all year. I mean, they have an all-world tight end rookie. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a elite top 3 receiver in the NFL. I don't care what you say. And like you said, the Gibbs and Montgomery tandem, they're going to smash, baby. And you think Purdy is going to be in for a surprise. I mean, I really think that. Our defense is great right now. It's for the first time all year they're peaking.
I mean, Jordan Love threw 2 interceptions last week, and San Francisco still locked down and won that game late. Like, I mean, I can't see Goff. I mean, I don't see Goff throwing 2 picks in this kind of a game. If he does,
like 8 weeks.
Right. So, like, but like Purdy couldn't get that team going last week, even though the defense was playing outstanding. So, like, if Purdy can't get it going again this week, like this is as far as they go. If Purdy's not going to have one of his MVP caliber games, which seem to be very few and far between this year.
Yeah, and then you got Debo questionable, all that, but that's beside the point. But I'll say this, man. As being as completely non-Lions fandom as I can be, I think the Lions are going to surprise them in a lot of ways. I think that they could beat them outright and then some. I know this is in San Francisco. I will say this: if you want me to play devil's advocate, I will. Maybe the stage is too big for the Lions. This is a very young team. Goff's not young. Goff's 28, 29-year-old veteran. The rest of their core players, 4 of their best 6 players on this team are rookies, okay? They really are. Laporta, Gibbs, Jack Campbell, and Brian Branch, the rookie safeties, one of the best safeties in the league already. And then you got Jamison Williams, who's a very important piece to hit home run type wide receiver numbers. He's a second-year player, but really a rookie because he never got a rookie year because this is me. So this is a very, 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 very young team, and maybe the stage is too big. Maybe they fall apart and gag and lose this game by 20. I don't see it happening, though. Dan Campbell and these guys are fired up, dude, and they believe they can win this game. There's not one person on this team who's intimidated. I guarantee it.
Oh, he's gonna have them. He's gonna have them ready, and I think that's the scare. Like, this is kind of the scary thing that this happened in the San Francisco game last week and the Ravens game last week, where you had 2 teams in Green Bay and Houston who had not, like, you know, it was a win-win situation for them. They weren't supposed to be there.
You could almost say the same about
right. But Green Bay hit first, and then San Francisco just didn't really hit back. Whereas Baltimore in the second half, they ended up, they hit back and they found their spark.
If San Francisco plays the game they played last week, Vinny, they're going to get hammered.
Oh yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Way better than the Packers.
Exactly. And I think that's going to be this Lions team is just going to come out swinging, and if Purdy's not good enough,
mentality too, dude. Right,
exactly.
Honestly,
because
I just said it. If they lose this week, even if they lost by 14, this is a big win for us. This is
exactly.
Huge step
There's
forward.
no more pressure. There's no pressure.
Blows us out. This is still a win season. Yep. I'm going to wear my Lions shit proudly and have this best season in 50 years.
Right. Whereas San Francisco, your whole
better than us.
Right. Whereas San Francisco, their whole thing going into this season was that they would have made the Super Bowl last year if they had a quarterback.
Maybe.
So exactly. So we'll see how good he is. I mean, he's got to play better. He hasn't played great.
If they can't get around the worst franchise in the history of all of sports this year, then I think. Let me ask you this, because I've heard a couple of murmurs of this, especially on Detroit's sports talk radio. If Purdy loses here, what are they doing? Because I know he's had an MVP season, if you want to call it that, but I don't see it with him, honestly. I think, could they win a Super Bowl with him? Sure. But I think it's a Trent Dilfer type Super Bowl. I don't think this is the guy that's going to, you're going to pay $50 million and build your team around.
They paid Sam Darnold to come there and compete for the starting job. He didn't win it. He won the second job. He won the backup job.
I think Darnold could be doing the same shit, to be completely honest.
Right. But like Darnold seems hungry though. Like Darnold, I guess, turned down more money from other places because he thought he had a legit shot at this at the starting job here.
Yeah, because if he gets this job, he
right.
next
He
year,
did right. He didn't.
Remember
He
this
didn't end up getting this
pile of shit out of Michigan that went to New England behind Drew Bledsoe and turned into Tom Brady. I mean, that does happen.
But like Darnold was a former first round pick. He did, he did so good in camp that, not saying Trey Lance was anything, but basically like San Francisco was forced to move off of Trey.
Yeah.
Right. They had to ship him because Darnold was just better and he was never going to see the field. So you're playing Purdy because you keep winning games, but Purdy's kind of got the feel of how Garoppolo did it when what was it, 2018?
That's how I think about him too.
Yeah. So like, can he win you? Can he win you the big game? Sure, but like they just don't have. They don't have the guy that's going to win the game with their arm. In my opinion,
can win for the same way Trent Dilfer won it for you, or Joe Flacco.
And so we'll see. I don't think they would move off of Purdy. I don't think. I think the only way they would move off
festival game against the Lions and they lose. I don't know.
They could. I think it would be more of they decide, like they kind of make him available for trade and somebody trades for him on like draft night or something.
Here, they've got Christian McCaffrey's only got a couple more years of his prime left if he's lucky. I mean, their window's closing if they don't win this year.
McCaffrey is for sure. If they don't win this year, their window is definitely, at least the offensive part. The defense, they have some very young pieces still. I think on defense they're going to be fine. I think their rebuild wouldn't be as bad as some teams. But yeah, offensively, like you're not just going to replace a guy like McCaffrey overnight. You're not going to replace a guy like Deebo overnight. So like their window is definitely a little smaller than it should. That I think a lot of
this
people
year, maybe next year in this window, and then it's going to be a different club.
I agree.
All right, let's take a look at a few props here, Vinny, before we jump off here. Anything jumping off the page at you? Brock Purdy let's look at passing yards. 272 for Brock, 255 for Goff, 246 for Patty, 210 for Lamar. That's passing yards. Anything sticking out from that side?
The under on Purdy, I think 272 is high for him. He has a few 300-yard games, but not many. I think that's high for him, especially with McCaffrey. McCaffrey's their workhorse. Like they're going to go in my opinion, they go as far on offense as McCaffrey takes them. So I think I would take
his only hope is McCaffrey breaks one of the, screen dumps.
Yep. So I would take the under there. And I would take the over on Lamar on his 210.
Yep.
I mean, I think I like their little combo there they have with Zay Flowers. We'll get into that. I think Lamar.
Man, he was a risk because he's small, right? So he's kind of been a spark for them for sure this year.
Yeah, and like I know Lamar doesn't always throw a lot. Like I believe he only had like 150 yards in He only had like 150 yards in the last game, but he also had he had 152 yards in the against the Texans, but he had 100 yards on the ground. I don't think he's going to get 100 yards on the ground here. No. I think he's going to have to throw a little more against this Kansas City team. So I think he'll get. I think he'll get around.
I think he'll throw more. So that's a
I think he'll get around that 220. I think he would get around that 220 mark. The Goff and Mahomes numbers I think are kind of right there. Maybe
Purdy's going under, dude. I think that's the big play for me too.
Yeah, I think those. I think
272. I know the Lions defense, the Lions secondary has been sketchy, but the Lions secondary, we finally got C.J. Gardner-Johnson back. That they're healthy for the first time all year.
Yeah,
he's not going to get a lot of time. We're attacking, bro. Lions are going to win. Purdy's going to get. He's lucky to get out of this game. Let's be honest. All right, passing TDs. Let's see what the money line is. Purdy at 1.5 plus 142.
Yeah,
I'm not touching any of this.
No, I'm not touching. I'm not touching Purdy.
The easiest money up there on that board probably for me is to go over on Goff.
Yep, I would. He killed me so many times with this bet this year, though. So like I would touch it. I think The one
I'd
that
be
I the one
shocked if he doesn't have 2, dude. I'd be shocked.
you think that, and then you look at his games this year, and he has a lot with one.
Because Montgomery and Gibbs each had like 10.
I know. Yep. I think. Yeah. Honestly, for
I still like
the
that the Bucs
value
got
on, for the value on the board, if you were gonna play an over, I
Patty.
think for me Lamar at plus 144. I know he doesn't throw it like he doesn't throw that many touchdowns, but you got to think he gets Mark Andrews back. Mark Andrews is active this week. I think Flowers is going to have a big game. I think there's a better chance of him throwing 2 than there is of somebody like Purdy throwing 2. Mahomes is just I think that's just too sketchy with the way their offense has operated all year to even touch either of his. So I would take Lamar's over here for the plus 144. I just think it's good value.
I would take Goff over, but I get it. If he's burnt you all year, then you're gonna run from that.
Well, it's just that's just one of those things with with Detroit where like they get inside the 10-yard line, they're 90% chance.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Lamar, where like Lamar is probably going to run the ball if they get that close.
But the Lions have like 7 weapons too, so it's hard to.
Right,
it's hard
they
to,
do.
They
do, and
they
just yeah. It's been I played a couple games. I played.
Big shout out, Mark Andrews. I've got a very close family friend of mine who is a young kid, 12 to 14 years old, was just diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and he's an athlete, big athlete, and so they looked up who's the most the big time athletes in the world that have type 1 diabetes. Mark Andrews is one. So a friend of ours reached out to Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews sent this personalized, FaceTime video to this kid I know. It was like 5 minutes of super heartfelt stuff. He didn't have to do it, dude. Especially like this, it was like 3-4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Important time down the stretch. He's hurt, and he personalized it, and it was not like some, hey kid, I hope you get better. He really sent it. Shout out Mark Andrews. I thought that was really cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah, you don't see that. You don't see a guy taking the time out for some random kid out here. So good on him. How about some rushing yards and receptions? Rushing yards on the left. C. McCaffrey, 86.5. Pacheco, 66. Lamar. I like how Lamar's ranked above like most running backs. He's such a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
And you got the old Gibbs and Montgomery kind of evenly rated because Gibbs gets the bulk of the carries there usually. But anything stand out on that left side there for rushing yards?
McCaffrey. I think
over?
McCaffrey. I think McCaffrey goes. I think McCaffrey's over. I think he has to be for San Francisco to be competitive here. Anything less, and they're in trouble.
I would. Gibbs.
Yeah, Gibbs. Gibbs is a tough one. That's one of those ones though with the right price is probably worth playing because I think either him or Montgomery have to go over in my opinion. If they both go under, Detroit's in a lot of trouble. They both might. They both might.
They get like pretty much equal carries. And the thing is, if you haven't watched the Lions much this year, folks, as somebody who's watched every snap of this season 20 times, Jahmyr Gibbs is honestly the next Adrian Peterson, Barry Sanders in the league to me. I think he's the next elite running back. He's that good. He hasn't shown it much because the Lions have unrolled him slowly and smartly because they have Montgomery, but he could put the 47.5 behind him in one carry, which we've seen him do 3 or 4 times this year. But that doesn't mean he's going to get it,
The other one I like here is Pacheco. The other one I like here is Pacheco's over. His second half of the year has been.
He's another one. He can get it all at once too.
Yeah, his second half of the year, he has gone. His over under is at 66 right now. He's gone over 60. He's gone over. He had 89 wild card weekend. He had 97 last weekend. He had 130 to end the last game of the season. He had 110 2 games before that. Pacheco's he is just running right now. So I think he goes over that 66.5 number.
All right, let's take a look at the right side of the screen here with receptions. McCaffrey 4.5, Kittle 4.5, Zay Flowers 4.5, Jahmyr Gibbs 3.5, and Isaiah Pacheco 2.5. Anything standing out there?
Zay Flowers over. I think Flowers is going to have a big game. I think
he has to. Another
yep,
one. Like I think they have to.
Mm-hmm. Kansas City's very good at protecting the ball going downfield, but the quick slants that Baltimore runs with Flowers, I think Flowers is going to. Yep, I think.
And honestly, that's why they're good this year, is because of Zay Flowers and because of that threat to wide receivers screen them out and let a game maker or game breaker be a game breaker.
Yep,
right?
And agreed. And Pacheco over 2.5. I know he hasn't hit it the last 2 weeks, but he was a big option in the passing game all season. He had a lot of games this season with more than two receptions. The last 2 games he didn't get he only has two. He has 2 targets, 2 targets and 2 receptions in the playoffs so far. But he had over 40 receptions during the regular season. He had a bunch of games with more than 2. I find it hard to believe they're not going to just kind of use Pacheco pretty hard here, especially since Baltimore is just going to come after Mahomes and try to get him on the ground and get him under pressure. So I think there'll be a couple checkdowns. Yeah, I think it'll be a couple checkdowns. And it is tough with Pacheco because Edwards-Helaire, for some reason, like 3 or 4 times a game, takes his spot and gets those plays that you think is Pacheco. And then it's like, oh, no, that's Edwards-Helaire. But yeah, I think over 2.5 for Pacheco for receptions is a good number.
And I'll by no stretch call myself a prop bet specialist, but I think Gibbs over across the board here. I think Gibbs is going to have a career. He's had a career second half. He's a rookie, right? But he's improving every game, and they need him. They need him to be big, and he's going to be big. Let's move along here. We got a couple more things to look at here. Receiving yards. On the left side is the guys who's rated the highest to get receiving yards. And the right side, anything else sticking out to you? Let's see. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 84.5. You got Ayuk at 80. And the Ayuk numbers hugely dependent upon whether Debo goes, right? Because Debo. And this is Tuesday evening. So we are, 50-50 on Debo from what I hear.
Yeah. But I mean, he's not on this list.
Yeah, that says something. And this list was taken a couple hours ago. I will say this, Kelsey over. I mean, I don't care because it's Kelsey and Mahomes in the playoffs. And I think that's just a different animal. It's the same reason I'm picking them with the points. But St. Brown, 84.5. I'm a huge St. Brown guy. I think he kind of reminds me of like a Steve Smith when he was elite for the Panthers. He is not the huge play threat. He is not huge. He's not the big, giant jump ball fade guy like a Calvin Johnson, but he's just a guy who gets the ball, and the first guy never tackles him. He's the toughest dude on the field. He's a bad mother effer, and he never drops the ball, although last week he dropped one finally. He's a bad man, but 84.5 seems about right when he's going to get keyed up by the Niners, who's a good defense. The one who stands out to me in this list on either side, well, I got the tight ends, Kelsey and Laporta. If Laporta is healthy, 48.5 yards is nothing to him. He got that pretty much every game all year.
Yeah,
he's not 100%. That's the threat.
Yeah, I think Flowers has to have a big game for Baltimore. So I like his.
I like
over.
How you're sending it all in on one guy. Like
I think I think this kid is
too.
I just think this kid is something special. Like if he was, and like I know Lamar is going to be MVP this season, and Lamar had a great season. And taking nothing away from Lamar, but like I feel like if Flowers was on a team with like a gun, with a more of a throwing quarterback or like a gunsling quarterback, like this kid would have done what Puka did for the Rams. Like I think he is this kid's easily, in my opinion, a top 10 receiver already. and
Yeah,
like
he's special.
he's just getting better. Yeah, he's just
He's
getting
like St.
better.
Brown for no reason at all. He
Mhm.
catches the ball on a freaking screen or
Yeah.
some little slant, and it looks like a 4-yard gain, and then all of a sudden it's a 15-yard gain
Right.
for no reason at all, other than he just beat the first guy.
Yep.
You know?
I like
Laporta's
his
that way
over.
too.
I agree with you on Laporta. San Francisco has been decent against tight ends this year, which is scary with the Laporta. But again, I think he should get. I think he's definitely going to get the targets this game. I trust it more than I do with the St. Brown over. I think St. Brown's under is
Yeah, I wouldn't touch that.
yeah, his under would probably be more of the play. It wouldn't shock me if he went over, but I feel like around 80 yards is where I would think St. Brown would
Yep.
finish this game. So
That
that's a little.
over under is correct. Yeah.
Yep. The one though.
Jameson Williams down there at 28.5 yards. He's going to get that all in one play, or he's not going to get anything at all.
Yeah.
And I feel like the Lions kind of need him to do something. So
McCaffrey at 35.5. I think that's just another one where they need McCaffrey to play ball.
This is going to be a fun Final Four here, right here, guys. I
Yep.
mean,
And I
don't love any of these, to be honest. If I had to pick one, I'd say Kelsey, and it's only based on they show up in the biggest moments, and he's the Taylor Swift rock star right now, and blah blah blah. And it just seems like the Disney storybook shit goes right for these same guys every year. And it just seems like it. I don't like him any more than I like Flowers or, I like J-Mo and Laporta. I don't like St. Brown at 84.5, although obviously he could, but.
Yeah, I would stay away from St. Brown.
I like the guys on the right side of the screen way more than the left, other than Kelsey.
The other one that I like a little bit here is Raheem Rice there for Rashee Rice.
Rashee Rice, get it right, which nobody's ever been named Rashee before.
But I think this number is a little low for him. I know he didn't hit it last game, but he gets targets. He gets targets. He's their number one actual wide receiver now,
which is crazy.
Right. And like he had a couple of his catches in against Buffalo. Like he had an opportunity to get a little more yards, and Buffalo just played him very well. So I think he's definitely got potential there to go over 60 yards. That would probably be on my left side of the screen. I would play Rice. On the right side of the screen, I'm all about Flowers here.
Left side for me is Kelsey. Right side, either Laporta or J-Mo. You can see my allegiance to the Lions, but Josh Reynolds too, man. Josh Reynolds just coming off a big game. And here's the last slide of the night, folks. Touchdowns. And you're going to they're all at a half a touchdown, over or under. And here you see it. I'll zoom. Do I need to zoom? Can you read them?
I can see them.
Christian McCaffrey, clearly the favorite, minus 310. He's almost certainly going to score. Ayuk Samuel is in this one. So Lamar, let's see. You see anything sticking out for you? I feel like everybody on this page is going to score, so it's a little bit hard for me.
Lamar, I think Lamar is going to get in. He
plus
rushes.
105. That's even money.
Yeah. I think Lamar gets Pacheco, and I would say I really think Flowers scores. So those would be my
Flowers
top three.
Plus 180.
Yeah,
180 or 160, whatever it is. St. Brown's going to score too. He almost is certainly going to score.
Yeah,
he's plus 135. Yeah, same. You're going to cross the board. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't trust
you
Kittle.
Really think Kelsey's going to score, right? You're going to see Taylor up in the booth.
He should. I mean, in reality, he should. But this is one of those. Baltimore's one of those teams that has been very good against one target all season. I think he's going to be. I think Kelsey's kind of. If he scores, it's going to be on like a busted coverage type play. I don't know if he is going to just. I don't think he's going to get the easiest looks. I got to imagine Baltimore's not going to let Kansas City do what they did to Buffalo, where Kelsey is just, 6 catches, 85 yards, and a couple touchdowns. I think they
David
try to take.
Montgomery plus 170 looks pretty good too, though. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
There's my long shot plus 170. Your Zay Flowers plus 180.
180.
Two of the longer shots out of the group.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, Lamar just seems to score every week. It's just one of those. He's just one of those guys. Same with he's kind of like McCaffrey, where he just kind of seems to find the end zone.
McCaffrey is minus 310 for the kids scoring at home who aren't regular bettors. That means you have to put up $100 to win $30. That's how certain the whole world is that McCaffrey's going to score a touchdown. That's crazy.
what? I mean, what? McCaffrey has scored in.
And by the way, the second favorite to score a touchdown, Ayuk, is pretty much even money, like Debo and Lamar. They're all even money. Even Kittle and Kelsey are pretty close to even money. McCaffrey's 1 to 3, folks.
That's what? Wild. They've played what, 19 games this year, right? I think San Francisco's played at this point.
That's right. Did he miss
He has scored in 17 of 19 games this season. He did not score the last times. He didn't score the last week of the season when they just obliterated Washington. Fine. And he didn't score it was actually on my birthday, November 12th against Jacksonville. Those are the only 2 games all season McCaffrey has not scored in. And they won both. They beat Jacksonville 34-3, and they beat Washington 27-10.
And that's probably why he didn't score, because he probably didn't play a lot of snaps in the second half of those 2.
Yeah. So I don't think there's been McCaffrey scoring has just been one of those. One of those.
You can't bet it, but you can't not bet it either. I mean, at 1 to 3 odds. Again, if you're new to betting, that means you got to put up $100 to win 30. It's not a great proposition unless you're the type of person who's going to put up 10,000 to win 3,000. I mean, then you're talking, but then you're taking huge risks. No, I don't like it.
I agree.
What if he pulls his hamstring or something? Whatever.
Yep.
But anyway, Vinny, it's been a absolutely fun year, especially for me as a Lions fan, man. It's been a complete blessing. I've never had this much fun with the NFL, with the Lions. They're relevant. They've been semi-relevant in 2016. They've made a couple mild runs. This is the best team in my lifetime for the Lions. Even if they lose this week, I'm proud of them. Dude, it's been a fun playoff season. I know your Eagles kind of blew out and backed in and sucked.
Hey, I have a Super Bowl in my lifetime. It's a recent one.
And they got there last year and they almost won it too. So.
Yeah, I got a Super Bowl in my lifetime. It's a recent one. Obviously you can't expect to win it every year. So I hope we figure stuff out, but it can't be too mad. It wasn't like I was completely sold on the team either going into this year. I was kind of skeptical.
Marks.
Yep. So
I think it ended up worse than anybody could have imagined.
It happened. I mean, I'm for the NBA. I'm a Lakers fan, so I think it's been far worse being a Lakers fan this year than it is an Eagles fan.
Even though the Eagles, I think you have a good team. They went to the Super Bowl last year and then started 10-1, whatever it was, and then all of a sudden now it's like people want people's jobs gone. They want to all of a sudden Jalen Hurts is public enemy. It's crazy.
I said it when they lost last year. That was our shot. If football is one of those sports where sometimes your team just has the feel
of salary cap, bro.
Right, you're just a one hit.
2 weeks ago, Vinny, in Detroit, and by the way, Goff has been absolutely elite the last 8 weeks. I know there's question marks on him. I'm not saying he is elite. I'm saying the last 8 weeks, he has been better than anybody.
He's been great.
Playoff, he has been absolutely this close to flawless, and he's been the best. He's unbelievable. And I've had my doubts on him, so I'm not blowing him just because
the NFL just has there's so many factors in for your team to get to the
half of Detroit doesn't want to sign him.
Right. But it's just
where we're at.
Right, but there's just besides the salary cap though, you got to have your key guys healthy at the end of the year. Yep. It's a physical sport. These guys get injured all the time. you just got to be clicking. Everybody's got to be on the same page. It's not like basketball where
believe in your
one guy.
coaches. You got to be
Right,
yeah.
right. It's not like
Basketball, you got 2
basketball
or
where
3
like
good
one.
guys. Nothing else
Right,
matters.
like
You're up here just winning.
one guy can really lead you through the playoffs. Like you might need more than that to win a finals, but like for over a decade, we watched LeBron will awful teams to the finals. Before
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
we
The
watched
Harlem
Kobe.
Globetrotters shit.
We watched
You're
Kobe
dribbling.
almost win a title with Smush Parker. Like
Yeah.
that's how
Oh,
whereas
yeah.
in football you can't do
Nope.
that. So like
No.
when like the Eagles last year, they had you had a defensive line that had over 70 combined sacks. Hurts had an unbelievable touchdown to interception ratio. Everybody was healthy going into the playoff. Like everything
Yep.
clicked. And this year it just wasn't it. That's what happens. So like that's why like Mahomes getting to 6 straight AFC
crazy.
title game. Yeah, AFC title games. He's been to multiple Super Bowls already. He's won a
doing
couple.
it with the trashiest. I mean, we're talking about Rashi Rice or whatever his name is as his number one. Because
Right,
Kelsey,
like-
let's be honest, and I'm not gonna dog Kelsey. He's one of the top 3 tight ends of all time. But
if
he's
they
not
win this
that
year,
great anymore. Sorry.
if they win this year, I would be shocked if he doesn't retire. I really would.
He should.
I think he's kind of like Gronk and would like to ride off into the sunset.
Yeah, he should. What is he? 34.
Yeah, he's like 34, 35.
He's not the same guy.
Right, and I honestly think Jason Kelsey would have walked away this year if the Eagles' season didn't end by falling off a cliff.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, that's
if they had a respectable season, like the end
I got
of the
news
year.
for you, dude. Jason, I was talking about this with my wife because my wife's all of a sudden very interested in the Kelsey brothers because of Taylor Swift, and I'm like,
well, his celebration was great though.
It was sweet. I loved it. I don't give a shit about the Kelsey brothers, but I was like, yep, that would be me. That's how I would handle it. I'd be partying, having a good time watching my brother. Fuck it.
Right.
So I just think that coming back to the Eagles, if he comes back to the Eagles next year.
Yeah, I think he is. I think he re-signed today.
Did he?
Yeah, I think
if he was going to play one more year, I'd be like, I'm going to play with my brother on the Chiefs. Or some shit
I think he just wants. I think he just wants to go out with a team that is all playing together and not falling off a cliff. Like that was just like
that was the worst meltdown.
Yeah, losing 7 of 8 and just
That's worse than just sucking all year.
Right, exactly. So I think that's kind of where like if you retire on that, like that's got to be that's just a nasty feeling, especially if you think you can keep going at least another year. Like I feel like you don't like you see a lot of guys walk away like on their on the highs. I feel like you never see guys walk away on like the lowest of lows, and I think that sucks.
That sucks that it ended like last year. Maybe you should have retired last year, but you're right.
Right, if he had retired last year after the Super Bowl loss, like nobody would have blamed him. Everybody, it would have been the same type
loss, whatever. Yep.
Right. So I think he'll come back. If they win, even if they only win like 7 or 8 games next year, I think that would be enough for him. As long as it's not like they win their first 7 and then they lose out. Like I think that's kind of why he's coming back. Is like, hey, I want to right this ship a little bit. I don't think he's expecting for that.
He's such a likable guy. I think everybody's rooting for him. Whatever he decides on, I'm sure that people will love it, especially Eagles fans. Vinny, let's do it, baby. We've been doing it all year. We had a great year. We had a winning year, both of us, 55%. You can't complain. It's been fun. We'll come back and do one. I don't know if we'll put it in next week with a Super Bowl with the week off in between, whatever we're going to do, but we'll figure it out.
Keep me updated.
Any closing words?
Yeah, let's hope for 2 really good games.
That's it, man. I think they're going to be. It's been a fun playoff so far. So, Vinny, take it easy. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.